Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for the Texas Longhorn fans coming out of the transfer portal. Former Alabama wide receiver Isaiah Bond committing to the Texas Longhorns. And we talked about it, like Texas having to replace a lot of production in that pass catcher room. I mean, Coach Sark has gotten right to work in doing so, landing Matthew Golden a couple weeks ago. Now a guy like Isaiah Bond, who is listed as the #1 wide receiver available in the portal, the #2 overall player. Yes, that is above Evan Stewart, the former Texas A&M wide receiver. Dill, you've been a massive fan of Isaiah Bond going back to before this season even started. I'm going to give you a chance to cook on Isaiah Bond. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. This has been just a blast covering the transfer portal and kind of talking and diving into some of these teams and what they're doing in the portal. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, Dill, I'm going to let you cook a little bit. Isaiah Bond heading to the Texas Longhorns. How we feeling?
And Isaiah Bond's a guy that I think I've wanted to be that #1 wide receiver at Alabama for 2 years now. And again, probably he was last year, but they just weren't a super dynamic passing attack. But this is a guy like a throwback to how like Jerry Jeudy looked in some of those great Alabama offensive weapons. So smooth running, so good taking the top off the defense, ran exceptionally good routes. Like he just looked like that. And I don't think we ever got to totally see that at Alabama. Texas, again, have to replace a lot of guys, but other than that on the edge, their infrastructure, that offense is great with Quinn Ewers and that offensive line. So
a massive week for the Texas Longhorns. And what is a massive offseason, right? Keeping Sark at home in Texas, Quinn Ewers coming back. I mean, this offense looks to be extremely dangerous in 2024. And I don't even think Dill sold you guys enough on how high my brother is on Isaiah Bond. The amount of text messages I've received with Isaiah Bond, either clips or just telling me how good he thinks Isaiah Bond has been for the last couple of months, has been wild. And Dill, I kind of agree with you. One, Isaiah Bond, you just turn on the film, and this dude is special from a movement skill standpoint, from a speed standpoint. I don't think he fully got to show it in that Alabama offense. And we know that Alabama passing attack was very limited. Couldn't think of a better fit in this Coach Sark offense than a guy like Isaiah Bond coming in. And you talk about Coach Sark wanting to get his guys in space and getting them the football in space and letting them go make plays. And Isaiah Bond fits like a glove in this offense.
And that's what you're looking for, because frankly, the last year at Alabama when Isaiah Bond was the guy, they really had one option, and that was take the top off the defense at Alabama. They didn't have much of a passing game or a passing attack that could hit intermediate and short. And that's where one thing, like, I think you kind of like when you saw guys like Ruggs or Jeudy or some of those really great Alabama wideouts take those quick screens and take them to the house kind of routinely. I think Isaiah Bond, he's got that explosiveness. I think if he's in more of a rhythmic timing offense that gives him the opportunity to play like that rather than just, again, he did a really good job getting downfield this year. He hit a bunch of really big plays that was huge for Alabama, but I didn't think we got to see the rest of his game. That's what I'm looking for to see.
And I would even argue that, like, yes, Isaiah Bond, when you run a 10-500 meter dash, like, you can work vertically down the field and excel. I don't even think that's Isaiah Bond's best attribute of his game. Like, this is a guy that, yes, he has the track speed. He can run in a straight line extremely fast. His best part about his game is how smooth of an operator he is, whether he's running routes or having the football in his hands, right? Varying his speeds, getting in and out of his breaks, creating separation early in his route trees. And again, I think Isaiah Bond probably thrives working that short intermediate, route tree. Jalen Miller just couldn't get him the football. And that's where I see Isaiah Bond fitting in this Texas Longhorns offense is a guy that you're going to get the football to early, often, and let him go create after the catch. And I mean, Coach Sark is a master at dialing those kind of plays up.
And that's kind of what you're thinking, just how well he was able to get guys out in space all year for Texas, whether that was through screens, whether that was through quick timing-based routes. Again, just nothing resembled that at Alabama for the year he was the guy at Alabama. And that's what I'll be looking for. I think he can have a massive breakout year and be in that like round one conversation. That's how good I think he is.
That's how good. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When seeing the 24/7 Sports eval on him, like I remember talking to him coming out of Buford, Georgia, going to Alabama. This was a guy that was extremely fast, could work vertically down the field. I'm surprised that they have him as the number one wide receiver available in the portal over Evan Stewart. But Dill, I think you're not. Like, you've kind of been on the Isaiah Bond bandwagon for a little bit now. In Texas, you're getting a truly dynamic wide receiver, which kind of gets me into the other thing I want to touch on real quick is, I mean, this wide receiver room needs to replace a lot of talent, a lot of NFL talent, and just a lot of production. Like, a lot of that production in the pass catching room is going to the NFL. And so you talk about what this wide receiver room is going to look like heading into the 2024 year. You have Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden. That is exactly what you needed in terms of getting guys who have done it at the college football level, have a ton of juice, and now coming to an offense that is going to better utilize their skill set. And then you're balancing out, Dill, a young wide receiver room with guys like Jonte Cook, five-star Ryan Wingo coming in as a true freshman. I mean, this pass catcher room is kind of, I don't see it really taking a dip heading into 2024 year in the slightest.
No, because I mean, you kind of bring in those two veterans to replace the big time production you had at the top of that unit with obviously Worthy and Mitchell. But I'm kind of with you. I'm like very excited to see the young guys. I think we all wanted to see them a little bit this year. At least we did, following the recruiting and all that. Kind of like you hear the Jonte Cook whispers, how fast he is, how explosive he is. You just kind of want to see him let it rip. And again, I'm sure he's going to play a fair amount this year. And that's really what you're like looking forward to as Texas, just how much, again, this is starting to become a very hot destination for wide receivers again. And why wouldn't it be under Sark?
It's becoming a hot destination for football players in general. I mean, this is I feel like no one's talking about this. Texas was brought in the second best recruiting class in the country in 2024. You take a look at what they're doing in the portal. They don't have 10, 15 guys coming in because they don't need 10 to 15 guys coming in. I don't even know if there's that many guys in the transfer portal that could really impact Texas's roster to that level. But Dill, you take a look at what they've done in the portal, and you talk about recruiting the high school ranks elite, and then using the portal exactly how Texas is doing it, where you're looking at your roster and saying, all right, where are the cracks, or where are maybe some areas in our depth chart that we got to fill in? And that's exactly what they've done, right? The wide receiver room, losing a lot of experience production. Going to go out and get Isaiah Bond, and going out and getting a guy like Matthew Golden. Trey Moore, one of the elite pass rushers available in the portal, he's going to Texas. And then Andrew Makuba, a guy that probably goes day 2 in the NFL draft, coming to Texas for year 4. It's not a big class, but you look at the quality of these 4 players that Texas is bringing in, that's probably what excites you most if you're a Texas fan.
And that's 100% it, because at the end of the day, this roster is, I mean, a lot of young guys played really, really good football last year. A team that I think you kind of ready-made didn't need to be in the portal that hard just because of how well they've recruited. And the other big piece is how well they developed. I mean, these young guys are starting to look like they're really, really special players. I mean, what Ethan Burks kind of turned into, what Anthony Hill Jr. has turned into, what Jade Barron, some of these young guys, some of these other young guys in the secondary as well. Like, you're starting to see them actually play good football and develop into what their recruiting rankings were. Because obviously Texas always been able to recruit even under Tom Herman. But what this staff is doing much better is, like, when you get a 5-star like Anthony Hill, he plays like a 5-star right away.
Yeah, I agree. The player development, and from just a culture standpoint, like, you can feel this Texas team kind of turning that corner. We saw it in 2023. The last thing I'll know, in a conversation that I love to have in terms of like modern college football and the sport that we see developing today, is balancing out like how you go about constructing your roster. And I think Texas is kind of following the blueprint of the other top programs in the country, right? Georgia, Alabama. We are going to make our hay with our players in the high school class. We're going to bring in top 5 classes. We're going to get those guys developed. And we're not going to go to the transfer portal and completely overturn our roster. You're seeing some programs choose to do that who don't recruit at the high school level they need to. Texas doesn't need to do that. They're following that blueprint, that championship blueprint, where we got our base talent coming from high school, and we look to the transfer portal and say, all right, what players, just a few, that can kind of get that 1%, fill in a crack in our roster, help our depth chart become a little bit stronger. That's exactly what Texas has done. Like,
it's also become a destination. I mean, it's not like some of these schools need to just take 30 of them and hope a couple hit, and that's how they're going to do it. Like, yeah. Texas kind of can say, all right, this is who we want. I mean, you look at this group. I mean, Isaiah Bond.
All 4 of them are hitting. Like, there's no question about that.
These guys are premier NFL. Yes. Like, they're like legitimate stars. they get kind of just have their pick of the litter. It's not like you see this dotted with guys who are like couldn't quite crack it at Alabama, couldn't quite crack it at Ohio State. That's who Texas, they're taking the guys off of. I mean, Andrew McCool was awesome for Clemson. Isaiah Bond was awesome at Alabama. Trey Moore, obviously awesome at UTSA. But it's just kind of a different mold that they, and I think when your culture is deep and when you kind of have pros on your roster already, it is a much more attractive spot for someone like Andrew McCuba rather than maybe going to a team that, again, it might have a really talented, deep, whatever transfer portal class. But if it doesn't have the infrastructure that have put pros up, and you've seen how guys get better and better while playing at Texas, I do think just that's a more sustainable model doing it that way.
100%. Isn't it something we talked about a lot? I think at the end of the day, you're getting 4 guys who are NFL players. Like all 4 of these guys are probably going to be drafted in the 2025 NFL draft. That's massive for this Texas team. And when you're competing for national championships, like that's how you start to attract this talent. Guys are saying, wait, where can I go get developed for my last year of college football? Yeah. Where can I go compete for national title in Austin, Texas? Like that's where you can get that done. Wanted to update you guys on Isaiah Bond. A few more targets for Texas that they're trying to close out on. We'll continue to keep you guys updated as it plays out. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again.
If they get Muhammad from Washington, that is a problem for the rest of this country. He is.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.